I'm Leanne Tran, psychologist who's worked with families whose kids don't fit the mould for almost 20 years. I've worked with children for decades, but I know parents are the real change makers when it comes to their kids. Having 3 kids of my own means I know it's not easy. Parent Like a Psychologist is all about simplifying how you support your kids with psychology information filtered through years of experience to take you from overwhelmed to confident. Come on in.
We're trying to get away from the reactionary side of money and make it a little bit more flow in, has a purpose, and is doing something valuable for us and our lives and the world potentially as well.
Yeah. And as we're talking to, I'm getting this sense as well about having it be something that's not that fearful or negative connotation and even a bit fun or intentional.
Yes.
And I take that approach into teaching my kids or exploring money with my kids a bit.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear how you do it. I know your daughter's a bit of a little entrepreneur. She's got a market stall.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you do together with money?
Yeah, well, we started out with the jam jars. So we read Barefoot Investor, and
Right.
I got the Barefoot Investor kids, and we got the jars, and she decorated them and all of that. But to be honest, she's more motivated by the money that she earns than the money that she's just sort of given as pocket money.
Yeah.
So she's sort of constantly coming up with ideas of, okay, Mama, what can I do to earn more money? And so, yeah, she'd been making necklaces for years, and I was like, okay. And my mother had been doing painting, so I was like, let's do a market stall. I can't say it was a money spinner, but
Okay.
it was definitely a good experience, and it was also really good for her to understand the concept of profit because she didn't really get that until then. So she sold some of her necklaces, and then I was like, okay, so this is the amount of money that you got in tech revenue, and then this is the amount of money that you get. She's like, why don't I get all of it? I was like, well, because we have to pay for the beads and the actual materials that you used. And she's like, I said, that's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
It can't just be Mama always paying for it. So this is how.
Yep.
And so she sort of was like, okay, all right, okay, I get that. But she's still in that. She's 8, so she's still in the phase of that Mama pays for everything.
Yeah, but that's how they live, right? So they don't have that idea of expenses and that kind of stuff because they don't have to manage it. Yeah.
Whenever we go on holiday, so I'll just quickly say, we'll always give her a certain amount of money. So we just went to Noumea for a week to celebrate my mum's 80th, and we each gave her, I think we gave her 50 Aussie dollars each equivalent. And I was like, this is how much money that you have to buy what you want. I will buy your food. I will buy you an ice cream. Maybe every day or two, because it was really expensive. I've never spent so much money on on food over there, and activities and stuff like that. But if you want to buy like a toy or anything like that, you have your money. It's amazing how much more discerning she became when it was her money to spend, and she saw how much she had left, and she's like, what do I want more, or what would I like more? Do I want, rather than just going, oh, what can I have? And it's just stuff that sits there.
Yep.
She's like, okay, well, I really like that. That looks beautiful, and that match. And yeah, so it's interesting to watch, and it's important for them to get used to spending money that's theirs so that they can make those sorts of decisions.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I think there's some similarities in what I do with my kids as well. But I think if they need to spend it to be able to experience whether, their decision making and to refine their decision making, they will make, and we can't do that for them. Like you say, for them, it's got to be what they think is most important or not. And, they might learn by making mistakes, and that's just life. But we use that same approach of on, what was I going to say? Well, I guess we try to focus on what's earned rather than what's given as well. So if the kids are given cash for a birthday present, it's usually something they save away. It's not the spending money. But they can spend what they earn. We started out the same way with the Barefoot Investor kind of idea, and then as it's interesting for my kids. They like maths. They like learning about it. And so they have started doing we do some investing on their behalf. And so now my
Mhm.
two boys are in high school and they'll come home from school. I'd say, how's your day? And they go, yeah, it was good. Oh, the stock market went up a little bit or whatever, because they check it every day at school because, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But
It's good.
recently,
That's, yeah.
yeah, it's that playful kind of approach of exploring, I think, through spending or through whether it's investing or even earning money, or our
Mm.
kids often when we go camping like to try to set up a bit of a business where they can make some money from in the camp thing, or,
Yeah.
selling this or that or whatever. So I think because kids learn through play, it's a really fun way to do it.
Yes. Yeah. That role playing. And yeah, we used to have a market stall at home, but yeah, my daughter, she likes real money. Unless
Right.
she's doing it with real money, she doesn't, yeah, the pretend play doesn't interest her quite so much with
Yeah.
when it comes to money. She liked having sort of shops. She would even just do it with like air. Didn't have
Yeah.
even have to have fake money or anything.
Yep.
But yeah, but it's an important thing. And to be honest, a lot of money is boring. It's
Yeah.
just consistency, doing the same thing, incrementally, little by little. And the exciting part, because even the spending's not that exciting. Because after a while, you get the thing and
Yeah.
it sits somewhere, and then that initial flush of excitement disappears very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's like the box that the thing came in is often more interesting than the thing itself, because they can get creative with it. So
Yeah.
it's also helping children to understand that, money itself is a tool to help us live our lives. It also helps us give. So my daughter has give money.
Yeah.
And that, to be honest, it's a bit of a challenge trying to find places where you can actually physically go to give money rather than just donate online. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we
Yep.
go to like RSPCA open days. We try and we went to a youth center open day, but they weren't accepting donations on that day. I was like, are you
Oh,
kidding?
okay.
Like,
It is
can't you
tricky,
like
isn't it?
figure out
And
how to do that?
yeah, we often then maybe take the money for them and then donate it. But I had a question about whether how do you think things are changing in terms of not having cash so much and just using cards, where it's all, like you said, that matrix of numbers
Mm.
in the ether somewhere?
Yes, yeah, it's that is making it a lot harder to teach kids about money,
Yeah.
because when they're little, again, very tactile. So if they
Mm.
don't have a physical thing to hold on to, so what I tend to do is I still use coins and things with my daughter, and I've just sort of got the same amount of coins, and they just kind of recycle because eventually I'll get notes to replace those coins, and then she
Yep.
can have notes to spend. But even then, it's difficult, especially if we give her cash. And we went to Sydney a year or so ago and went to Taronga Zoo, and she had a toy she wanted to buy, wouldn't accept cash.
Mm.
I was like, okay, you pay mama and then mama will use the card, but you still have to
Yeah.
have the feeling of giving the money over.
Yes.
So it's kind of, you have to sort of manage it a bit that way, where you become the bank, like the physical bank, and then it becomes
Yeah.
your problem to deal with the cash because some banks aren't even accepting cash anymore.
Yeah. It
So
is.
it is a challenge. If we go completely cashless, I have to, yeah. At the moment, when I run a lot of workshops and I use fruit to signify money,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's oranges or apples, so something again tactile. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I've got another friend who uses marbles with her
Okay.
child.
Yep.
So the marbles can signify, like, each marble's a dollar, and
Yeah.
that can signify the money. So we're going to have to get creative with it.
Yeah, because kids do learn, like you said, through that sensory stuff and exploration. And, they use manipulatives at school to teach mathematics so that kids can actually feel and see and touch it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to have some way of replacing it.
Yes, yeah. And to be honest, marbles doesn't work for my daughter. She actually wants the money. So I was like,
Yeah.
fine, we will use the physical money, because I use cash a lot. Like, she sees
Yeah.
me paying with cash. We go to
Yep.
the farmer's market and I'm paying the farmers with cash wherever we go. We actually went to South Bank recently, and we went to 3 different places trying to find an ice cream where they would actually accept cash. Because I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not shopping places that don't accept it.
Yeah.
So it was, and that's my own personal thing. But
Yeah.
it was very much so she sees that. So she sees the value that I place on physical money. So
Yeah.
she's got that sense of value. So if, as a parent, you place value on something else, but it's hard, like, you can't pay with oranges and you can't pay with marbles.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
like cards, I don't know. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting journey to try and figure
Mm.
out how to navigate that if we do tend to go down that path.
Yeah. I don't have any answers for you on that, but I do have some ideas, I guess, about how when as kids get bigger, one thing I've noticed my daughter's a bit older than yours, but through like doing the maths actually on a piece of paper is helpful.
Yeah,
She was going out to the shops with a friend or something, so she did
yeah,
a budget and then she added it up and she was like, wow, it adds up fast. I'm like, yep, it does. So
yes,
doing the maths or we um graphs I find are a useful way as well. So with, for example, the however much kids have got in their saving or their investment or whatever, or even in their
yeah,
giving, yeah, you can see that visual change.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do the like whenever we go out, and she can do addition in her head. So
Mm,
whenever we go somewhere and she's adding it up, and then she can also calculate change. So whenever we go somewhere, so we definitely do that when we go out. But yeah, the she's not quite that interested in the graph, like the visual side
yeah.
yet.
Not
But the
yet. Yeah.
investing, I have spoken to her about it a little bit, and she loves the idea that you invest your money and then somebody else does something and that money grows.
Yeah.
So she loves the concept of that. So again, it comes
Yep.
down to just concepts. And if you don't talk with them about it, like I've been talking with my daughter about investing since she was 6.
Yeah.
So the idea, and so I don't think she totally got it, but little by little, she's starting to understand it. And when I talk to her about, because she's got a bank account, I've got a micro investing account for her, and I've got like a proper investment
Hmm.
structure for her as well. That one, yeah, that one will be when she's older. But the
Yeah.
others, and she can sort of start to see, but she's like, oh, she's not that interested in it yet. She doesn't have anything she really wants to spend it on.
Yeah.
So until it comes to how to help put purpose, again, it's like humans. Yeah,
Yeah.
even as life, we need to have a purpose for something. And so money needs to have a purpose too. Otherwise, it will flow out. That's that energy part again. We need
Right.
to honor it in a way that it has some, and it's not just to buy a thing.
Yeah.
It can be there also to help with security, and this again comes down to your money beliefs and your background
Hmm.
and what you had. Like I grew up with a grandmother who was born in Vienna in 1920, so quite tumultuous, and then my mum was born in Vienna in 1944, so again
Mm.
quite tumultuous. So I grew up with a lot of stories around money and hoarding, not
Yeah.
just money, but hoarding stuff. My grandmother
Yep.
had so much, like she hoarded water under the house in case the water got
Mm.
cut off.
Yeah.
So all of that fear, and
Yeah.
I've worked a lot on letting go a lot of that, but I can still see my mum has it,
Yeah.
and trying to not create fear around that. So it's awareness and being conscious of your own history and how that can play
Yes.
out in the present.
Yeah, definitely.
But
You've mentioned a lot of books as well as we've been chatting. You mentioned the book that you referred to, the Japanese author, but also the
yeah.
Barefoot Investor and some other ones. Do you have any recommendations of great books to get people started on this stuff?
Yeah, so the Barefoot Investor is good. He's sometimes a little bit prescriptive, and I find I didn't connect with his languaging overly much, but I got the concepts.
Yeah.
But yeah, Happy Money is a really this is very much about story beliefs and background. So this is more of your
Yeah.
mindset side of things. There's another book which actually has nothing to do with money, but it will definitely help on your personal journey, and that's
Hmm.
Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements.
Okay.
And he talks a lot about don't make assumptions, always do your best, watch your language, and there's a fourth one which I have to try and remember. But and that's a really good principles for life and for money. So it's
Okay.
watching your languaging. Don't make yourself like don't assume that your children will just get this, or don't
Yeah.
assume that you know what they're thinking. You actually have to talk with them about it and
Right.
say, so what do you feel about that? How does that, like I do this with my daughter in reading. She sort of had it in her mind that she can't read. And I was like, but you can read. It's just you're learning still. So
Yeah.
we're on that learning. We're all on a learning journey, but we're
Yep.
all at different stages of it. You can't look at a grown up like me and compare yourself to me at your stage because you're 8 and I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
And I've had a heck of a lot more education than you have to this point.
Yep.
But yeah, so Don Miguel Ruiz's is a really good book. There's also another really good book called The Gap and the Gain. That one
Okay.
is that's Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. That
Okay.
one's really, really good too. About we tend to lament a lot, or we look at what we don't have or what we
Mm.
haven't achieved,
Hmm.
and so we're here and we look and just go, oh my god, that's so much I want to do, or I should have this at this age, I should have a house, or I should have this much in super. You can be saying shoulds for the next 10 years. But unless you actually kind of stop feeling bad about that and actually doing something about it, then that chasm will always be there, rather than looking at the gains and the progress that you have made to this point.
Yeah.
And again, without the clarity of where you want to go, it's just going to kind of be random, because I see that so much. People making random decisions or just following patterns. And I actually did a podcast recently about living an intentional life.
Mm.
And I think that's very much the core of what stops us from doing a lot of things, is that we're not really
Yeah.
sure what we want to do. But sometimes it's better to just do something than nothing.
Yeah. They sound amazing because the some are about what to do with the money, but then the other one's about understanding why, but
Yeah.
also what to help you find the intention or the purpose. Sound
Yes.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Um,
a lot of the money books are very similar.
yeah, okay.
There's not a huge amount of difference in, they're all talking about how you save, and then some will have money archetypes or phenotypes or,
Yeah.
personalities and all of that, and that's fine. And some of them are actually quite good to know, but it's really comes down to also, sometimes I don't like those, because I feel like we rely on that and use it as an excuse for why we can or can't do something. And
Yeah.
ultimately, I was like, well, if you know what you want to do and you're going to do it, or you can make an excuse to not do it, either way, that's fine. Just be aware of it
Yeah.
and do it
And
deliberately.
yeah, and you can be aware of it without having to put yourself into a box of
Yeah,
label. Yeah.
that's right. So I had a friend whose son had dyslexia, or has dyslexia, and at first she was debating whether or not to tell him about it. She's like,
Mm.
don't know whether or not to tell him, because he will use it as a reason why he can't do things.
Yeah.
And she knew his personality as well. So she didn't tell him for a good 6 months. And she was really tussling with whether or not to tell him. In the end, she did, but she told him in a way that said, I'm telling you this to help explain why some things are a little bit harder, so you don't beat yourself up about it. I'm not telling
Yeah.
you so that you can use it as a reason to not do
Yes.
things
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
excuse yourself from stuff. So context became really
Yes.
important in that space. So that's where, yeah, labels can be helpful, but they can also constrain us.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. I feel like I've now added to my little, probably it'll be in my Amazon cart or Booktopia I try to go with, but
Yeah.
later because I love reading and that's how I learn.
Yeah.
And my son's recently read a few. He's read The Millionaire Next Door, which
Mm-hmm.
was interesting to him. He's read Girls That Invest as well,
Yes, I think I've
because
got that
he,
one.
do you? Yeah, he likes the podcast because it's funny and they're young and he can relate. So
Yeah.
again, I think the message not very different, but it's just about how you connect with it.
Yeah. And
Um,
your phases of life too,
yeah,
when you're
exactly.
starting out and you're building, and we are talking about your son and being able to take risks when you're
Yeah,
younger. And
yeah.
then when you want to buy a house, or you don't, like, for instance, I never thought about really buying a house, to be honest, because the house,
Mm,
I just thought, oh, it's all, because I saw my parents invest, or my dad in particular, invest in property, and it was always so much. There was always these
right.
fees and some other repairs and all. It was so many costs involved with it, and so, I mean, and not even just the money, it was the headaches, like
Yeah.
dealing with the tenants who, punched a wall and the landlord insurance wouldn't pay and all this sort of stuff. And so I just put the mine property in the too hard basket. I don't want to
Yeah.
be tied down. But then I also got but then I got sick of renting as well. So I was like
Mm,
having somebody come into my home, and it's not really my home. Somebody else is checking on it. And so in the end, it was a real reaction. I said to my husband, we are buying a house, and I found one. And
yeah.
so he goes and have a look, and he liked it too. I was like, that's it, done. So 2 months later, we moved in.
Oh,
And I'm really
wow.
glad we did, because right after that, the prices went like this. But
Yeah.
but that was my phase of life had changed and had
Yeah,
to. I wasn't aware of it at that time because I wasn't on this journey yet. But then I'm like, now I look back and I was like, it was phase of life. We do need to kind of keep track of the fact that we change as we grow and develop. And as soon as we
exactly.
have children, everything changes.
Yeah, yep. And that could be a really good last question to ask you, but do you have any kind of piece of advice or a principle you think's useful for most families to think about in terms of um, their finances? Because it can be a big stressor for a lot of families.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you kind of find yourself often giving to help people think about finances in a certain way?
It's it's an interesting one because yeah, I would just say don't stress so much about money.
Mm,
And it sounds easier said than done, but it's you don't need all the things that you think you need.
right.
And it's trying to turn it into fun. Like for
Yeah.
instance, my daughter, they all and kids go through phases where she liked ladybug miraculous or
Right.
whatever it was,
Yep.
and she wanted miraculous's mask, and I was going, okay, I can tell this is going to be of interest for like a week. So how about we make the mask?
Mm-hmm.
So I had some felt laying around and a hot glue gun, and off we went. So we made it. And sure enough, within about 2 weeks, she wasn't interested anymore. And I thought, I'm glad I didn't buy that thing, or we'll buy secondhand and then we'll sell it again. So I
Yeah.
suppose it's trying to get out of the mental rut that you've got to do everything.
Yeah.
As you don't have to do everything, and you can just really important to put some money away. I highly recommend micro investing. So to put it on like a set and forget, because that's the other thing too.
Yeah.
If you can try and automate some of this, especially you're investing in your saving, it'll
Yeah.
make life a lot easier. And it doesn't have to be a lot. That's the other
Yeah.
thing as well. So I know there's so many facets to this. It's hard to pick one, but
Yeah.
the ultimate underlying one is just do things incrementally. Doesn't have to be big. Just do little by little by little. You'll be
Yeah.
amazed. Just an example on that. The micro investing, I opened a micro investing account it was about 6 years ago. I have just over $6,000 in there now.
Mm,
And
right.
that's just at round ups. And I did
Yeah.
round ups for the first 5 years. And in the last year, I've added like $10 a month. And
Right.
it's
Yep.
just, yeah, gone up. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had that if I hadn't started that back then.
Yeah. Yep.
That might be my daughter's first car, although I'm
Yeah.
not paying for her whole car. But anyway, that's
I wouldn't
that
expect you to, but yeah.
gonna have to earn at least
Yeah.
half of it.
Yes.
So there's that sort of thing. It's really more we think big, doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Little by little
Yeah.
by little.
Yep. It was a bit of an unfair question to ask because everybody's in a different phase and stage, like you mentioned before. But I like the message, which is to not stress so much about it and it doesn't, yeah, maybe to reduce. You don't have to have everything, but you also don't have to invest highly in everything. You can do
Yeah.
things in small little ways that fit with your intentional life and yeah,
Yeah.
you will
And try and
stress
have
less.
try and have some fun with it too. Like even
Yeah.
just like I said, we were in Noumea and it was really expensive. So we caught the bus places and we didn't do some of the day trips because, well, to be honest, we live here in the Bay and we have such beautiful,
Yeah.
environment here as well. And we had so much fun. We did things
Mm,
that we would not have normally done. We experienced things we would not have normally experienced if we'd just hopped on the hop on, hop off bus or taken the tourist boat here. We got to really blend with locals and
yeah.
feel the culture a bit more, even though that it was a little it was anyway, the culture was a whole nother story, but it was so nice to be able to do that. And I love doing that when
Mm,
I travel anyway, because I like to go to the supermarkets. I like to chat
yes.
to the
Yeah.
locals at the bus stop, if I can speak the language.
Yeah.
Um, all of that. So it really, it's like even like Mother's Day, we were saying, we're just going to have a picnic
Yeah.
because I prefer to have the food that I like,
Yeah.
pick
And the
exactly where
company.
I want to be
Yeah.
and not have crowds and set menus and high teas and all of this stuff sort of imposed upon me. So it's
Yeah.
it's finding the joy in the simplicity.
Yep. That's a really great place to to finish it off. I think finding the joy in the simplicity. Yeah. I I also get this feeling we could talk for ages and ages, and we haven't even hit on culture yet and that kind of stuff, but maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Mm.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Leanne.
It's been such an interesting conversation, and it made me reflect and think about some things in a different light, and I hope that's really done the same for the audience listening as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And yes, I could go on and on too, but yes,
Yeah,
I covered a lot today.
we have. So you were talking about that some of that work you do was with couples to start with, and where can people find you if they want to start some of this journey with you?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So Instagram is Alpha Money Made Simple.
Hmm.
Facebook is MMS Money Made Simple. But my website's got everything on there, which is money-madesimple.com.au. And on there, I have a banner, which is a money management assessment. That's quite often where
Hmm.
people start. I
Okay.
do also have, from the energetics perspective, I do have a small mini program, which is 30 days to elevate your money vibration. So that's on the homepage as well. And that one is 5 to 10 minute videos every day and a playbook
Okay.
that goes with it. That is, if you did all of that, it would really start to shift both your mindset as well as how you actually start to do things with money. If you
Yeah.
want a little bit more tactile help, that's where the money management assessment comes in, because that's actually one-on-one session with me
Yeah.
where I'll
Okay.
I'll help you understand and set up your systems, and we'll do a little bit of mindset in that too.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love that there's two ways so people can choose what they feel called to, but
Yeah.
also the idea money made simple. Again, it comes back to that simplicity of it. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
Awesome.
that's a big message for me, and I have to check myself too. Anytime I'm
Mm,
going, all right, I'm overcomplicating this. Take it back to basics and
yeah.
just enjoy that simplicity.
Yep. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you again for joining us, and I've, yeah, really enjoyed it, and look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Thanks, Leanne. I've had a lovely time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. If you found it helpful, please share on Instagram so other parents can benefit too, and tag me at Leanne Tran Psychology so that I can say a big thank you. Head over to leannetran.com.au to join the village for bite-sized psychology tips straight to your inbox. I really hope this podcast has brought a new perspective and you a step closer towards a calm parent and a thriving child. Have a delightful day.